Let's get spooky.
Let me show you how this sounds. Let me show you down the octave. Yeah. That's a scream synth. That's what gets me going, especially when it comes to, you know, that boo-wah, hard style kind of stuff. You put that scream on top and then everyone just starts dancing pretty much like this. Let's describe how I found this sound. We're actually going to be using a really interesting sample, and it's a sample that a majority of you know because it's a game you've all played. It is the Redead sound. That will eventually turn into this. And then at the end, I will show you some cool tricks I did with reverb and delay to make the sound kind of like expand more. So let's jump into the logic, even though we've already jumped into it. And I'll show the chain. Ta-da, there it is. That's it. It was this one, and this one. So there's something that I want to point out in this video, and thank you Logic 10 devs for doing this. It has been the most amazing edited update that you've ever done. At least that's what I've found out in this version. I don't know if this has actually been in Logic 9. I know that I used to have to Control E to hit samples into a sampler in EXS24, which was not the best sampler ever. So the fact that they did this was just absolutely a game changer for me. This Redead sample, we're gonna go ahead and click and drag, and we're just gonna drag over into this, to the where it says drag regions here to create an instrument track. That's amazing. I didn't know that was a thing. So you got a quick sample optimized, drum machine, alchemy granular, which I could write a whole dissertation on granular synthesis. Is literally the best thing ever, and I hope one day to get inspired to actually make a video about it that makes sense. So let's just go ahead and drop this into original. Now, disclaimer, for this part of the actual tutorial, I'm going to be talking about how sampler works. I will put timestamps in the description so you can skip ahead just to the plugin section of this. I love this thing. Okay, it is like night and day compared to its brother EXS24. This has probably been one of my favorite sound design tools I have in my bag of tricks. So let's go over the layout. This is I'm going to give a very simple, detailed version of what this is. If I open up my Magic Keyboard here, if you want to do this, that's actually just Command K, and this pops up this keyboard. This is how I write a lot of my melodies. I used to have a giant grand piano, but you live with what you get, right? We've added the sample into sampler now, and if I hit any of these buttons, you can hear that not only has it sampled it to a key, but it's also changed the pitch, which is just phenomenal. And the best part about it is we can actually do quite a bit in this. Before, doing stuff in EXS24 was kind of a nightmare. They've definitely cleaned this all up. I'm just gonna keep bad mouthing EXS24. That's just how I feel. At the top here, we have classic one-shot, slice, and record. Well, record is obvious. You can just record whatever you want into here and sample it. Literally, you just hit record, and then anything that's playing in the background, if it's set up correctly, will record. Classic is just your classic sampling. One shot is kind of cool because if you hit it once, it'll play the whole sample through. Where is that good? That comes in when it comes to drums. Drums are probably the best way to do that. You can just actually get a really cool groove out of it. And then there's splice. Splice is awesome because before, when you used to resample things into transient markers, it would just pick the highest transient, and splice has a little bit better algorithm now. If we see here, right here, it's beautiful. You can see that there's notes attached to these actual flags. So let's go down. Oh gosh. Open up my Magic Keyboard and go down into the lower sections. Too low. One more. There it is. When I hit selected key, it's only going to play that area. That's awesome. That makes it so much easier. But it gets more in detailed. I don't know who at the Logic office is like me and only plays with this little magic keyboard here, but they made your life easier because to play this, you have to hit the chromatic notes, correct? You don't have to. You can select what you want. You can do white or black keys, depending on what you prefer to play, right? So I'm using the magic keyboard where my favorite notes are C to C here. Or if you want to, you can switch it over to the other notes, right? And it'll also tell you which notes these are on. I think I haven't played with this enough yet, but I'm pretty sure you can change the octave of where this is. And then you can change the sensitivity too. You can actually go ahead and pull out some of these markers. So it's gonna look for the loudest transients. And then you have also other divisions like beat, equal division, and then manual where you can put your own splices in, which is really nice. You can just do this actually. You can just click and drag it where you want and then change the note of how you want it to. I think I have to do more research, but I know that there's a way to do this. And the cool thing about this as well is not only can you choose the notes, you can select if you want it to gate, so it lets go, or play to the end, which is really nice. If we come over here to the actual window itself, there's a couple options we have. We can right click it and turn on the auto loop. Now from what it looks like, the auto loop is either predetermined or it's looking at the loudest transients and selecting it there. I'm not 100% on that one yet. Return, the return sends this to where this key or where the actual original sample lies. So if we go to F5, which is up here, nope, higher, too high. That's it, that's the original sample. And then crop sample, it actually crops the sample down into what you've selected, right? So if I undo this and let's say that I want just that, it goes ahead and crops the sample down to the selected size you want. We don't want to do that. We want the whole thing. Next thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about this beautiful thing here. This is where some of the bread and butter really kind of gets down to the nitty gritty here. We can play the sample, as you can see, with a playback forward or reverse. And something that I thought was interesting, this is actually some pretty good coding, is you can just hit this button and keep hitting this. And it keeps playing. So now that we've got that, let's go ahead and start it here so it's like nice and poppy. And we're gonna turn on the forward loop. By dragging these little arrows here, you can adjust the loop sample size. And then you can also change the actual way that the sample acts, so you can reverse it here. Or do alternate, which I think goes forwards and backwards. Which when it comes to like doing really nuts like dubstep basses, I love looping stuff like this. Well, not alternative, but forward. It's got that cool rhythmic feel, and if you just play with this with a drum pattern, you can get some interesting sounds. There it is. This time stretch is pretty cool as well too. You can go ahead and click this, and this will follow the tempo that is set here. But where it comes really fun is when you play with the speed. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 more sections to kind of go over, and then we'll go back to the sound. But then again, if you're just here for the sound, you've already skipped past this, so I don't care. Switch the pitch. Why don't I just change the key? There's a reason. So if we go ahead and we apply this here, and then we turn up the sense of the envelope depth, now this whole thing becomes active. Now, not only can you start at a lower note, if you pull the A, or if you switch this from AD to like ADSR and pull the K up and keep the sustain here, now you can really get some different trails when it comes to your sound design, because now you have all these opportunities too. You You can also go the opposite way as well. The fine tune, of course, you can always just adjust it if you got the tuner open, you want a very specific tuning. Here's your pitch bend. You can go from 0 to 12. This is my only critique. Really, only 12. You can only go to 12. You can't go up to 24. You can't do 2 octaves. You can only do 12. That's like literally like the only thing that I'm like, that should be patched. But it is what it is. And then if you want the notes to slide together, let's say that you have this in mono. And we'll start this sound a little higher. Now the glide works. You have to be kind of pretty strong on the glide here. Inside the filter section over here, there are low pass filters, there's band pass filters, high pass filters, and then there's some creamy filters. And the envelope depth is cool. Turn the envelope depth up. Make a nice little plucky synth. If you wanted to. There is one thing about the filter here that's really nice that they added is they have, I'm gonna go to more of a thicker dB for filtering, and we're gonna turn up the key scaling. And the key scaling is actually changing the filter's position. So technically, if you were to raise this up in the position that the filter starts. So that's a really cool little feature that they added there. And last but not least, of course, we have the amp. The amp is right here. Pan. And if you want to, you can make the sound polyphony. ADSR envelope also corresponds with the amp. And then the velocity here is if you have it down all the way, and you turn the velocity all the way down, if I could hit the right button. It's gonna be the same volume. Now, if I was to turn the velocity up here, with a MIDI keyboard, the way that you hit it will have some articulation to it and won't just be one sound. But I make electronic music, so I just want it loud. We have this modulation area. And the best part about this is it is really simplistic once you understand what you're doing. The way that I look at this is if you're a fan of ES2, then this will make so much sense to you. If you've never used ES2, this might be a little bit of a learning curve. So you get your rate, you get your fade in, your phase, key trigger, mode polyphony, and then the waveform, and then you have this bipolar. You get your amount here, like if you want to set this up to like a modulation wheel, and then a target. So let's do this, let me make sure. So we have this repeated loop, so I can demonstrate what the actual LFO does. So if we go to the target, this is where we have all of the options for what you can actually affect. And as you can see, there's like almost all the options here. There's so much here that is pretty impressive. They really took their time on actually building this thing. So I'm gonna just do pitch for the example. It's just connected to it. You can sync this up by hitting the little note here, and now it'll give you division times. You can have this fade in, which is a really cool like excision style track. He usually, or not track, sound. He usually likes building in those like little vibratos over time on his synths, and that's like my favorite part. You have your different types of waveforms here. Bipolar is where it's smooth, it's linear, it's from 0 to 100 to 0 to 100 to 0. And in this one, it's pretty weird because it takes out the phase of it. So it's literally from 0, 100, 0, 100, 0, 100, where bipolar would be 0, 100, 0, negative 100, 0, 100, in a very simplistic term. That's like the easiest way to describe that. That is not 100% accurate, but that is how we're gonna go with that. Modulation wheel is exactly what it is. You can set the modulation wheel up to whatever you want. So it could be pitch, it could be velocity, it could be aftertouch. You can go to town. Like, this thing is built so much better than EXS24. Bruh. And now, for what you've all been waiting for, the piece de resistance, the sound that has brought you to this video with probably a really clickbaity title and some thumbnail that is what I think creative. the Scream Synth. For this example, I will be uploading not only the Redead sound in the description, but I'll also be uploading this sampler preset. So you guys don't have to copy all of the like, oh, it's like here at this frame and the loop is at that frame. Nope, just gonna give it to you. Just download it in the description and then go to your user default. Where is it? Include preset where? Oh, load. The big word that says load. Load, find it on the desktop, import it, and then save it for yourselves. Now we've got that out of the way, let me show you the sound that I created. And I tell you right now, like I say every time, this is not how I found this sound. I did not sit there for hours and go, yeah, that one. This took me a lot of time. Like it started off with me probably having just a sample in here, and then I started adding distortion and then EQs, and then I found, oh, it sounds cooler when you reverse it. Oh, that loop is really cool right there. So this isn't like it's really hard to teach this stuff because it just feels like abracadabra sometimes. The thing that I just want to point out is all of the sounds that I've made over my life and over my time, I like to call them happy accidents. Every single one of my tracks, I never thought to myself, yeah, I wanted to do this and then I wanted to do that. It was more of a like, oh, that's cool. I didn't think about that. But now that we have that aside, we have this sound. You can download it in the description. Let's start adding effects to it. First thing, just like in every single tutorial I will ever teach, distortion first. I added this distortion first and we used the clip distortion. And this one's pretty gnarly. Got the mix 100% up, clip filter all the way up, the tone all the way down, the drive up 31 dB, and then the symmetry is -70. And if I open up my Magic Keyboard again, that I keep closing for some reason, and I hit the note, that's what you want. I don't know how to explain it, but when I'm listening to distortion, when I'm hearing the sound or the sample just ripping apart, that's when I know that I've done it correctly. Yeah, that's what you want. And then you add the channel EQ. And holy bananas, was it a lot of channel EQ. But let me break down how I did this. It's not like I just was like, bam, preset, right? I wish. It doesn't work that way. Well, you want to start, and you kind of do the same thing in mastering. You want to start in the low frequencies first and work your way up. Sound without the EQ. Let's cut out the low end with the distortion on. Cleaner. It's automatically cleaner. Let's add a really massive bell curve at 890 hertz, just at the highest. Those are those just nasty harmonics coming in, just destroying the distortion. Let's add another one. That added a lot to the sound. And then when I was sitting here, I was like, yeah, what does it need? What does it need? It definitely needed some like more ear-piercing 5K, in my opinion. And then just high shelf the crap out of it. Which I think I high shelved it first, and then I was like, it needs a little bit here. That's definitely what I did. This is something I learned from like other hardstyle producers, and they call it, I think they call it the crow effect, where you add a chorus to kind of tame the beast a little bit, but if you turn the rate up and the intensity and the mix, then you get this like, almost like listening to a crow caw sound. Like you can hear the difference. That's more in your face. To me, that's more tame. We added my favorite plugin. Oh, you beautiful thing, Saturn. Saturn from FabFilter, an amazing plugin. One of the best, especially when it comes to distortion. Actually, I say that and I only use 2 knobs out of the whole thing. I use the feedback knob all the way up and the frequency knob, the dynamics down, barely any distortion, and then I mix it in. I don't know, it just gives it more life. It just gives it more body. There is only one tip that I have for this, is if you have this synth, or if you have this plugin on, and then you have the dynamics up, like all the way, it won't sound good. Maybe if you're going for that type of noise. But that's what I like hearing. Let's talk about this thing. This thing is a beast, but in my recent years of the way that I've mastered tracks and the way that I've, made music, dynamic EQs have definitely been a big game changer for me. And the reason why I love them is because they feel way more musical. Unlike a normal EQ that is just stagnant and it just stays there, this thing dances with what it's supposed to do. So small background, you can Google someone else's opinion on it because they talk about it way better than I do. This will cut and boost certain frequencies, but when they surpass the compression amount, they will duck or reduce. Find someone else's explanation. That's the only way that I'm gonna do that right now. Without it, and then with it, it's so much more alive to me. And I'll show you, because I have the exact same EQ here that's stagnant and it doesn't move on the Fab filter. Here we go, the difference. It's really bright. It's really tamed. And that's without either. So you can make your own opinions on this. Dynamic EQs have been like the most important thing to me, and it's literally taken my mastering career from 0 to like 110 seconds. It's been magical. You want your track to be more alive, use dynamic EQs, but just be careful because they're very taxing on CPUs. We actually need to put a bit crusher, surprise, on here. And the reason why I used it was because I actually needed to raise the volume. Now it's at a nominal gain, and it's not clipping, which is the best part. So the last thing we can do here is to add just effects to it to give it some more flavor and to make it feel more alive. I have two buses here, and one is a reverb and one is delay. Not surprising, everyone does this. So let's go ahead and turn these on, and I'm gonna turn the compressor off first and just show you what the sound sounds like with just the effects. That's awesome. Put a kick drum underneath that, sidechain the whole thing, track done. That's it, that's all you need. But we can do more than that. Let's make this come more alive by using a compressor. So when the original signal comes in, it ducks the effects, and once the, pretty much once you let go of the key, then the compressor lets go and it lets the effects come in. And all I did was sidechain just the insert, Scream Synth, into here and compressed it pretty hard. I always turn the auto off and the auto gain off as well too, because I want to choose that. It's my choice. That right there gives it so much more life. That gives it just so much more creativity, because if you don't have them on, then it's just a mess. All the effects are right there. But if you sidechain it and let it go afterwards, it almost feels like this track has life. All right, I've explained sampler. I've told about the download. I've talked about the plugins. Let me check my notes for anything. No, we did it all. Cool.